This is the Chinese character for the last name Kim in Korean. Kim. There's millions of Kims in Korean, right? What we're actually going to be talking about today is why is this name read as Kim? This is the character gold. In Korean, they read this as Kim. So why is the last name of millions of Koreans Kim and not Kim? I found an article on the internet, which is actually what sparked this video idea, and I'll link it in the description. And after I found that article, I read through it and it kind of led me down a rabbit hole, chasing out other articles and finding sources for other things. So I'm going to be putting it all together for you in this video here. This actually means gold. This character means gold and it's pronounced as Kim, but it's, of course, when it's used in a last name, it is always read as Kim. Now, it wasn't always this way. In fact, historically in Korea, up until the 1400s, all of these names were read as Kim. And we know that. We know that from Japanese records at the time. They had transliterated, is that a word? Transliterated? Yeah. They had written down Korean words and using Japanese characters, and they had written down people with the last name closer to a sound like Kim, or they had written as Kom or something like that. So we know that this sound changed sometime around the 1400s from Kim to Kim. So if there's any Korean people that you know in history with the last name of Kim before that time, it's likely their last name was actually read closer to Kim. We don't know exactly why this happened. Okay, we have some theories, but no one really knows for sure. And the reason is there's just not enough evidence out there of anything the farther you go back. Now, there are several theories as to why this happened. And the first one is actually, I think it's pretty fun. It has to do with something called umyang oheng. Umyang is just yin and yang in Korean. Oheng, meaning 5 directions or 5 elements or 5 planets. You can refer to them by several different names, but the name is actually not really that important. What it has to do is something related to Chinese Taoism or Taoism, which is what things are based on a lot in Korea, such as Chinese medicine or martial arts or feng shui or many things like that. They'll base it on this sort of, well, okay, it's kind of nonsense, but there's this system of 5 different elements that things will work together and against each other. And let me try to draw that up here for you. So this is what's known as the 5 elements or 5 planets. And the way it goes is 목, wood or tree, hwa, fire, to, land, earth, 금, gold, 수, water. And some of these work together with each other and other of them fight, and some of them will win. For example, you can have water will beat the arrow going, water will win over fire, or fire will win over gold. Kind of like, ancient Chinese rock, paper, scissors or something like that. Or, Pokemon types. You can kind of think of it as that sort of thing. Now, this was really popular actually in the Han Dynasty, and this is what influenced a lot of things in Korea. So let me just list some of those. So Chinese medicine, astrology, how they would do tea ceremonies in China as well as Korea, martial arts, feng shui, and yeah, you get the idea. Now, what is this even like, why would this even be important? Well, I mean, people believed it, people still look at their horoscopes today and those don't mean anything either. So it's kind of like that sort of thing, but it was used a lot. So why am I even writing this up here, right? Well, it actually has to do with a person called Lee Seung-gae. Lee Seung-gae, also known as Taejo, was the first king of Joseon dynasty. So he started the Joseon dynasty. He's very famous. Everyone knows this guy. Lee actually comes from a Chinese character that means plum tree. It's originally Li. What is plum tree? Well, plum tree is a tree. It's wood. It's a tree. So what would be more powerful than Lee Seung-gae? Well, maybe someone with the last name of Kim, gold. You have to imagine this. You have to go back late 1300s and you believe in this. You follow your horoscope and your horoscope comes out and says, be careful of gold. What if someone comes around with the last name of gold and starts to challenge you, challenge your superiority and tries to take over this brand new dynasty that you've just started? You're not gonna want that, right? What if I make everyone with the last name of Kim have to read it like Kim? Then they are no longer going to defeat me. Okay, so that's the theory, and you might already be kind of laughing, thinking that makes no sense, and I would be with you, because seriously, if that had happened, right, well, there would be records of it, because there's a king's sort of notes of what kings do for each king, and this sort of thing would have been written down somewhere. It would have been written down by some random guy who was named Kim and was now frustrated. He had to change his name to be pronounced as Kim. It would be somewhere. There's a very low chance of this being true. I just think it's an interesting theory for it. And in fact, the dates do match up, right? Around the 1400s, that was after they started the Joseon dynasty, so maybe. So then what's the real reason? Okay, I was just having some fun. I thought it was a really interesting theory that I had read. The real reason has to do more with Mongols. Now, who are the Mongols? If I say Genghis Khan, that might ring a bell. Now, Genghis Khan actually was dead before this happened. In the early 1200s, multiple times the Mongols invaded Korea, and they were very successful. In fact, they say today no wooden building even stands because of the Mongol invasions. They destroyed everything they could in Korea. They took over the island of Jeju, they made it for raising their horses, and they did it through multiple invasions. So when that happened though, that was at the beginning of the 1200s. That was before Joseon, that was before this sound change took place, when people were still Kim. This happened when Korea was still Goryeo, the Goryeo dynasty. In China, they also had people with the last name of Gold. In fact, that's likely where the last name originally came from. But it was not pronounced in China as Kim. It was pronounced closer to Kim. There were sound changes that were taking place over in China way before it happened in Korea. Now, Korea is separate from China normally. Korea could say Kim and China could say whatever they want, and it wouldn't make a difference because they weren't the same country. But now you've got this Mongol invasion. They brought in this sound, likely Kim, from their Chinese language as they came into Korea by renaming things or just calling things different things with using their own language, you know, reading Chinese characters, pronouncing those characters, and now, well, they say it's Kim, I guess it's Kim now. So in summary, the Chinese language had been changing the sound of gold to be more like Kim. The Mongols brought that over into Korea when they invaded them multiple times and then stayed there, and that's what ended up sticking. Now, is this theory supported? Is there any evidence to it? Yes, actually, there is some evidence to this. One is, you know, the time frame is about the same. The time that people stopped saying Kim and started saying Kim happened around the 1400s, which would have been after these invasions had finished. And one more thing is that a lot of Mongolian words at the time entered into the Korean vocabulary. And if you learned any Jeju dialect or learned about Jeju before, you'll know that Jeju was also taken over completely by the Mongols during that time, and the Mongols used the island of Jeju for raising their horses. So yeah, there is a lot of Mongol influence on Korea, so in my opinion, this theory holds the most weight, but in reality, we'll probably never really know because there's just not enough evidence out there to confirm this. What do you think? What are your opinions on this? Have you ever heard about this kind of thing before? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!